This is Vegetarian Queen, and here to tell you a few things about our new album. It's called Sheer Heart Attack. It's different from the last album, I think, in the fact that, one, it's better, because it's newer, we've improved a bit. There are more tracks, they're shorter, and they're more varied. And someone's breaking bottles outside the window. And the album was made under some form of stress, because we had to interrupt our after-American tour, when Brian was very ill. And as a result, we were all fairly strained. And I think a lot of goods come out of it. I think the stress possibly tended to produce a bit more high energy on some of the backing tracks. And that's come over on the harder tracks. And however, there's still a lot of variety, and some of the softer tracks are particularly fast. And it's called Brighton Rock. It's written by Brian Hurd, the lead guitarist. And it's a fairly high energy track. In fact, we had the basic idea for the track. It was going to go on the last album, but we didn't really perfect it. And Brian usually takes a long time to write his songs. It's very fast. It features a guitar solo, which is a fairly normal feature in our stage act, which was slotted into the song fairly naturally. It's a fairly long track to open an album with, but we're quite pleased with it. Freddie does a sort of dual role thing in it. He plays the part of a man and a woman, which is very fitting. And it's a sort of duologue, if you see what I mean. It just tells the story of a... It's partly humorous, telling the story of a very quick seaside romance. At the same time, it's a sort of hard rock track. It's a strange, anomalous mixture of moods, really. And it's hard for us to tell whether it comes off or not. But anyway, we like it. It's called Brighton Rock. We're here to keep up with good value, folks. The second track's called Killer Queen. It's a Freddie Mercury composition, and we like to think of it as a sort of sophisticated little song, but we put quite a lot of work into it. It's been released as a single in England, which is a part of one side of a double A-side single. And it seems to be the side that most of the radio stations have picked up on. And so far it looks like being a very big hit in England for a start. It's got a lot of little production techniques in it, a little bit of phasing, lots of counter harmonies and things. And it's called Killer Queen. Look out! Flick of the Wrist is the next song on the album. It's another Freddie Mercury opus. And it's fairly typically Queen. It's the other side of our double A-side single. And although Killer Queen was, I think, preferred as being better radio material, Flick of the Wrist really sums up what we're about better. It's harder. It's a bit more sort of evil, I suppose. Typical Freddie lyrics about being ripped off by managers and things like that. But it's got some typical Queen harmonies and a very sort of heavy middle section. And it turned out quite well. We used a few new recording techniques on it, which we were quite pleased with. And it was actually the first track we recorded and the first track we mixed. And it turned out okay. And it was like a lead track for the album for us, although it doesn't come first. I think it's the fourth song and the first song. Flick of the Wrist. And The River Valley is the next track. It's a short Freddie Mercury track, rather in the vein of a song called Nevermore on the last album. I think Freddie's got a natural aptitude for writing very melodic, short songs with a sort of heavy keyboard influence. Not really heavily orchestrated, but they usually tend to build up into sort of little crescendos at the end. I think it's a very pretty song, very well worked out. It's got some nice harmonies at the back. It's mainly a Freddie song, really, but we all contributed towards it. The River Valley. Side 2 starts with the first part of a song called Lap of the Gods. In fact, it's really two different songs. The end song on the side is also called Lap of the Gods. But Freddie Mercury wrote the song, and in a way it's the big production number on the album. Lots and lots of voices, very high, lots of harmonies. And lots of different sounds. We tried some very strange sounds. We did lots of things with a voice on it. And lots of vari-speed things. We did some vari-speed cymbals. Lots and lots of effects on this track. And lots of backwards cymbals as well. Loads of cymbals, loads of voices. A little bit of phasing, a little bit of slowed down voices, using Leslie's and things like that. And it came very well. We had while we were doing it, we found some very strange harmonics coming out between the guitar part, which is at the end is sort of Indian influence almost, and one of a very high voice part, which I did. And there are these weird sort of modulating harmonics coming out, which we tried to get out in a mix. And we got this sort of Morse code type thing that just comes through. If you've got a decent stereo, they come through great, and they're going all over the place. And it's got a sort of floating, melting, celestial type atmosphere, and we thought it worked okay. The first part of Luck of the Gods. The Dear Friends, next track on side 2. It's written by Brian, and it's Brian's softer, slashier side coming out, and his choir boy days as well, I mean. It's sort of very hymnal, sweet little tune, really. But halfway through, they had a Walt Disney harmonies come in and overwhelm everybody with coolness. But it's in a way, it's very short. We didn't know he was going to put it on until about 5 minutes before we finished the album. We did it very quickly, and it came out reasonably well. And I think it's quite a cute little track in its own way. It's very short. If it went longer, and it would have been dreadful. But I think it's great as it is. It's called Dear Friends. Misfire, the next track, it's by the amazing John Deacon. Actually, it's his first song he's ever written. And we all contributed a little bit, although John really did nearly all the work in it. He did most of the guitars and the bass as well. It was recorded rather strangely. The drums were put on afterwards. And we turned it into a sort of semi-reggae track. And Freddie twisted the vocals around a bit, and it's quite a stereo extravaganza. I think it's come out quite well. It's quite a good discotheque record, really. The sounds are good on it. The drum track is very good sound. And I think the guitars come out very well. In stereo, I think it's excellent. So it's a nice little track. It's fairly short again, like most of the tracks on the album. And it's called Misfire by John Deacon. Bring back that Leroy Brown. It's another Freddie extravaganza. Completely Freddie thing, really. He typically goes off on soundtracks himself. And he came up with a song, which is a very sort of 20ish or 30ish, I'm not quite sure which, thing, with sort of barbershop harmonies, quartet harmonies, all over the place. It's solid harmonies from beginning to end, sort of counter harmonies coming in against one another. An enormous amount of work went into it. And, I don't know, during the 4 months that we were sweating over the album, I think more intensive work went into this track than the other. It's very short again. It's very snappy. And it's very sort of period. And I think it comes across very well. And, I don't know, it's quite a funny little track, really. It's clever in its own way, I think, though. No point in being modest. And, Freddie should take most of the credit for it, I think. It's called Bring Back That Leroy Brown. Second album. I think it's called The Luck of the Gods. Again, it's revisited in brackets. Freddie Mercury wrote it, and not surprisingly, you do the title. And it's a 3/4 time song with a very good basic melody, but it ends up with a sort of huge chanting, free-fall, sing it yourself type chorus. And it's forming the basis of our, the end of our stage act, probably the last number in the sort of basic stage act. And I think it's got a good sing-along thing at the end. Sometimes it's very heavy, it's very majestic. And it ends up with a dirty great explosion, which it will do on stage. It'll be even dirtier and even greater. And so come along to it. It's called Luck of the Gods Revisited. I think it's a good end to the album. Hi, this is Radio Queen, and on behalf of Queen, the band, it's Brian, Freddie and John, and me. I'd like to wish you all a really happy Christmas and a good New Year. Have a good 75.